The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
The best ideas are free with Ben Young from Bwaggy.com.
Indeed they are. Ben Young is with us once again. Hello to you, Ben.
Good morning.
Nice to see you, Ben.
Yes, bit tired after the game.
Yeah, have you stayed up all night? Did you get any sleep?
No, it was 2 a.m. It's the sweet spot. You can go to sleep first, get up, watch it, then go back to sleep.
Yeah.
The previous game was at 11:30. I had a meeting right in the morning. Couldn't quite do that. Because when it's at 11:30, you almost need the nap beforehand.
Yeah.
Because I had a meeting right on 8 o'clock, and then go to bed afterwards.
But certainly people are waking up with it's amazing, even though it's a game on the other side of the world
Yeah.
and we're not really involved with it, you wake up with a bit more optimism.
Yeah.
A bit more positive about the week.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great start to the week.
Yeah. Well, that leads us on to our topic, the context being a prerequisite for innovation. What do you mean by that?
So I was listening to a TED talk by David Byrne of the Talking Heads, and he was talking about when it comes down to innovation, creativity and inspiration, the context for which these lay in is almost a prerequisite. It's not like we come up with a new idea and then figure out where it fits.
Yeah.
We've already created it within some kind of confines.
Yep.
And so what he was talking about was architecture as a context and its impact on music.
Is it architecture, buildings around you?
Yeah, where music is performed.
Yeah.
And so he was looking at different kinds of music and how its context is impacted on its growth and development. For example, West African music is very loud. There's a lot of reverb. If you put it inside a building, it wouldn't work at all. But out in the open, everyone can hear it. It doesn't need amplification, and it's kind of the perfect music for that setting. And then he looked at other styles of music, for example, classical, and he was referencing kind of two periods in classical music, one where it was very loud and kind of bolshy and very dramatic, and at that point in time the audience, they would be quiet during the performance, but at the end they would be rowdy, demanding another song.
Yeah.
And so over time the rules changed and everyone had to be perfectly quiet, so classical music was able to be a little bit softer and a bit more playful because they didn't need to worry about interruption.
And that context was driven by the audience.
Yeah, almost, like the venue on which it's performed.
Yeah.
And he looked at a few other examples, like the crooners. They could speak softly into a microphone. It could be captured perfectly on a record, then sent out to people, and they could hear it as if that person was right there in the room.
Right.
Without that level of recording equipment and the distribution of records, you wouldn't be able to do that.
True.
And that style of music wouldn't work in a nice big open space. Like, that wouldn't work so well at Big Day Out.
No, indeed.
And he did the same with punk music. Like, punk music typically played in little rowdy bars where it's not like perfectly good space for audio. So,
well, you wouldn't have a wee singer-songwriter.
Yeah. So
on,
you need to be
you?
a bit rowdy, a bit more louder. Otherwise, people aren't going to hear you and they're not going to partake.
But he was saying specifically, that it is those buildings that do create that atmosphere and the change.
Yeah, he was saying by having this as the common venue for this music to occur, that it impacts on music. And the latest example would be the fact that most of us consume our music via our iPods. So songs have been changed for our iPods, and that you can guarantee that what you record and what you hear on your computer in the studio is what they're going to hear on the iPod. Whereas when you're doing a live artist, what they hear in concert, you have to make some considerations there.
Yeah.
And so you're saying, again, that's impacted on how the music is produced. And so I was listening to this thinking, I was like, well, how is this impacted on other things? And this is a discussion I've quite often with a few of my friends. I quite like American and British comedy. I like both sides.
Yep.
My parents, they like the British comedy.
Yeah.
My friends like the British comedy as well. I'm like, how do you like the American stuff? And I was like, well, they're both good. They're just structurally different. Now, what the British comedians, I'm talking about TV comedians, what those comedy shows tend to do is they have a whole lot of jokes that play on the last three jokes. And so as it goes through, the catchphrase gets more and more funny, and often they end on a high point, which has you cracking up because you've heard the little catchphrase all the way through. Yeah. And with American comedy, they get to the punchline much quicker. And in a TV show, there's probably 3 or 4 quick, punchy jokes.
Yeah.
And it's not as different because it doesn't have that compounding enjoyment effect. Mm-hmm. And that's actually come down to because in the UK, you don't have ads every 7.5 minutes.
Ah, right.
And so the show isn't interrupted, so you can keep stretching a joke.
Yeah.
But it's when ads are played that people switch.
Yeah.
So in the States, they need to keep people laughing as they go into the ad break so that they'll come back.
Right.
So they need to hit the jokes quicker.
Interesting.
And so that's almost the same, where these comedians are coming up with the jokes, not quite realising that the context that they're in is different, but it's reflected because of the context.
Yeah.
And it's almost this prerequisite. Before they even come up with the idea, it's already assumed.
So in the States, advertising dictates the jokes, or even on both sides.
Yeah, well, it's the same with sports.
Yeah.
There's been lots of commentary about sports advertising in the States around the World Cup.
Yeah.
They're saying the game isn't 3 hours long, but because of the ad breaks, for the States it is.
Yeah.
And even Super Bowl is famously dictated by the ad breaks. I forget what the numbers are, but it's like a 4 or 5 hour game. But
for sure.
less
Well, it's
than an
all
hour's
about the
gameplay.
advertising, really. It's not even about the game at all.
Yeah, so that's just another way that it impacts.
But what about taking the same principles and looking at it, at innovation in business or ideas, inventions?
So when you've developed an idea, or you're looking at an idea, you have to understand that the context for which this idea has been formulated in has been an assumption or prerequisite. So often you need to question the context, and good innovation will actually break the context. For example, when the iPod came out, other people had done portable music, but people hadn't done it in such a slick and easy-to-use way.
No.
And it broke the context of how we listen to music. Before then, it was still Discmans. And so great innovation will shift the context, but most ideas and inspiration come from within that context.
Good. All right. Well, that's certainly very interesting. Context is a prerequisite for innovation. You can continue the conversation on the website, bwaggy.com, bwagy.com, and also on Twitter as well, twitter.com/bwaggy.
Cool.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Ben. We'll see you
Cheers.
next